Welcome, guys. Another edition of Millennial Titles podcast. We're excited to be here. We've got a great guest today. We are taping this on May 12th, which happens to be a day after a really interesting day in the crypto markets. But today we're going to really focus on real estate, as we always do, and we'll embed in there some blockchain and some technology implements and so forth. But today I've got Chris Bounds. He is with Invested Agents and EXP, correct? You're with EXP as well?
That's
and
correct.
I'm going to let Chris tell a little bit about himself, and then we'll jump right into the Q&A. Thanks, Chris, for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chip. Long story short, flipped a few houses in college, took a break, 2011, once I got married, started buying rental properties, got my license in 2014, went full-time 2015. We've done around 88 million in transactions, including 200 flips. We have almost 400 doors under management. Most of that is from a large apartment complex that I'm a co-sponsor in from last year. And so as of now, I'm a team leader with EXP, one of the top growth leaders, but also a real estate investment fund manager targeting affordable housing, mobile home parks, multifamily, as well as single family, and providing good returns for our investors.
That's awesome. Very cool. And just as a quick aside, I was at the Inman Connect conference a couple weeks ago in New York City. I went to this leaders luncheon and I was sitting down eating lunch, and some guy comes over and says, "Hey, is this seat taken?" And I was like, "No, it's open." You know, it was sort of one of those random events where you don't really know anybody. And I was like, "Hey, I'm Chip Ridge." And he's like, "Hey, I'm Glenn." And I was like, "Hey, I'm with Millennial Title." He's like, "I'm with EXP." And then I noticed a bunch of people kept tapping him on the shoulder. "Hey, Glenn, so glad you're here." It's Glenn Sanford. So,
Yeah,
I honestly,
good company.
he's so soft, like spoken, and he's so unassuming. And then he spoke in front of the 5,000 people there. They're like, "We're so happy to have Glenn." So that was very cool. Very cool. Well, cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about just what you're doing. I've really been impressed with how you are building out your model, all the different I've always said the biggest thing about real estate that we can do as real estate professionals is get more people involved. This needs to be, it's an ongoing, especially the younger people that went through 08, 09, and they saw their parents or whatever, aunts, uncles have really bad experiences. And that's really, from a titling perspective, the millennials have been really slow to come into the home ownership front. So talk a little bit about how sounds like you started investing at a young age, but talk about sort of getting in and then building that, and then how you now are bringing people into the space.
Yeah, and thankfully now millennials, they're the number one demographic buying houses.
Millennial title, baby.
Yeah, and they're there's more of them behind that, especially with the next generation as they're even larger by population than millennials. So we've got a lot of new customers coming into the space. But yeah, my grandfather, I watched him invest in real estate when I was a kid. He had all kinds of rental properties all over the place, doing the rich dad formula. Now, he never read that book. He was old school. That's just what he did. He built a business, funneled his money into investments, both stocks and real estate. And I watched that and observed it. And my parents had a single rental property. So I remember going there in between tenants and kind of helping clean things up so they can get the next tenant in. So just an observation. And then when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad in college, that it provided the extra clarity that I needed and that I didn't quite understand growing up, but with that extra clarity on how money actually works and money flows, I was like, aha, I get it now. And I didn't, in that book, it's a high level, more theory book, but it kind of explains how money flows in a very simple way. I had to go figure out the how to after that, which I did, and ended up flipping 4 houses in college. Not what your typical college kid does.
But I wasn't doing that. That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean,
I was flipping something else. Might have been like cups on a ping pong table. I put beer in them.
I mean, I did that too. But later on, I started on weekends just knocking on doors for pre-foreclosures. And but ended up graduating, got a good job, had a great life, low debt, high income, sales, like everything's pretty fun. So the thing that gets in the way of a great life is a good life. And I had a good life after college, making a lot of money, really no debt. I still had two rentals, um, and didn't really do anything else until I got married. Now I'm starting to think about retirement, the kids, and my wife and I, our goal for our kids was private school, and we did that. We've been able to meet. The second one starts private school. She hits that payroll next year,
Yeah,
so
good luck.
uh, things are going to go up a little bit. But we were pretty happy to do that. But ultimately, flipping houses, because we flipped around 200, we realized, and this is what real estate agents do. Um, you get stuck in the trenches and you're really focused on the day-to-day operations, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but unless you can pull yourself out and have that macro view of not only is where's the business going, but where's the business going, and in comparison, and how does that align to your overall goals. And my and my wife's were our goal in real estate was always build wealth, build passive income, which we started out doing. But when I quit my job, when she quit her job, I mean, you got to eat. Rental properties don't really pay for food. You don't really
Yeah.
make a lot of money off rental properties. It's more of a long-term wealth building play. So that's why we're starting to flip. But the business model had evolved into something that required the constant burn of cash through operations and marketing to get deals, which when we'd realize profits and then churn that. It was just this cycle. So it was around 2018 where we were kind of taking a step back to like, what are we really doing? And we've created a really big job for ourselves, which is fun. You can make a lot of money doing that, just like a realtor doing commission, just like a wholesaler wholesaling houses. But it wasn't helping us reach our long-term goal. So we had this over the next few years. We started winding down the flipping business and moving into more of a hold operation. And then as of last year, we're like, how can we scale that? And the greatest way to scale that was through starting a syndication and a fund to provide good returns for investors, but ultimately allow us to get into much bigger opportunities and better opportunities, and grow faster.
Wow, that's a great just sort of dialing it back to where you started, in college and doing the flipping and sort of learning it from the bottom up. One of the things that we talk a lot to the people who are interested in real estate, whether it be go to coffee with them or have a sit down or have them listen to a podcast, what have you, is, you touch on a couple points. You really do have to, stop along the way and sort of reevaluate what you're doing and understand and sort of take, tabs of, okay, where am I? Is this really, because what I see, and I actually personally did a little bit of this at one point, was I didn't roadmap it. I just was like, I'm going to go buy properties, and I held a lot of them. And then I woke up one day and it was overwhelming. I was like, my weekends were getting ruined. My wife was always like, "Where the heck are you?" And I was, I wasn't, flipping beer and hitting ping pong. I was, trying to help a tenant figure out if the toy, whatever's going on with their situation, or collecting rent, or doing, and then you get burned out. Like, wait a minute, this isn't really what I signed up for. This, nobody in the books told me about that. So, I mean, I think your point of like reassessing and game planning and making sure objectively that you're moving in the right direction, because it is a process. I mean, you can't go from I want to be in real estate to I now have 400 doors and I'm a syndicate manager. I mean, that sounds awesome, but you had to put in years and years and years of work so that you had a baseline understanding about the nuance of what real estate really is. It's not super duper sexy at the low level. It becomes really exciting as you build portfolios and you can understand, some of the wealth creating opportunities within it. And then to me is just you touched earlier on the affordable housing aspects. you can really change people's lives too, as well. I mean, that's, we talk a lot about in our company itself about what we do, and it is meaningful. We provide opportunities for home ownership. We're part of that whole ecosystem, which is a lot of fun. Talk a little bit about invested agents and how you're building that out, because I think that's a really interesting approach to cultivating your network. And really, what I always like to say is, you're not leveraging your network, you're activating your network.
Yeah, I mean, I probably had done, I don't remember exactly, maybe 15, 20 deals before I ever got my license. When I got my license, my respect for realtors went sky high. I was like, holy cow, like they do a lot of work. Like there's a lot of
Right.
paperwork, there's a lot of phone calls you got to deal with, and you know, whether it's title commitments and ordering surveys, make sure that the buyer's appraisal got ordered on time, and all this jazz. Um, but it's very surprising that realtors, and it's the same thing. A realtor owns a job. Their job is to go out there and help buyers and sellers buy or sell their house, sell houses. That's their job. But just like a normal not normal, but just like an American in traditional corporate America, that they can go years and then they realize like I haven't really built anything for myself. I haven't built any wealth or any passive income. Same thing for the realtor. Now the difference for the realtor is it's 100% commission. So the moment they stop that active activity, their income stops too. Um, so unfortunately, they have a job that they can work really hard at. They can make a lot of money, and over 10, 20 years, and also in a very competitive environment now with big tech, like really trying to take commissions. If they wanted to retire, I realized like they own nothing. Like they could sell their lockboxes and Supras, which, if we can all be honest, those will be obsolete in 5 or 10 years anyway. There'll be some app, or Elon Musk will come up with something to streamline that.
Right, right.
So, but they own nothing, and almost every realtor says yes to I would like to invest. But the two things that stop them are education. They just don't know how. And then two, they don't have enough money, or so they think, which really just rolls around back to education, because you don't necessarily have to have a lot of money. I flipped for houses in college. I had no money.
Yeah.
Actually, I had less than no money because I had a credit card, because it's easy to get a credit card in college
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
even
yeah.
though you didn't have a job.
A
So
Discover
it's just
card.
the education. So that's when we created invested agents. Let's just teach them. Like it's very simple. You don't have to go out and be Grant Cardone and buy these huge apartment complexes and raise billions of dollars. You can literally buy one house a year for 5 or 10 years, and you're a millionaire. You're a multimillionaire. All you have to do is let your tenants pay them off. Just one house a year, and they don't have to be the greatest house. You don't even have to get the best deal. You could pay. Now I say this with caution. I don't do this, but I do know investors that do it. And if you have steady income, it's fine. You could pay full retail in certain markets and certain economic conditions, and over time you're going to do well. You're going to be all right. You may have to put more money down to make sure it cash flows and all that, but you'll do well. But if you learn how to buy properties the right way at a discount and use some creative strategies, you can gain equity on the purchase, have it cash flow a long time, not necessarily have a lot of money out of your pocket, maybe no money out of pocket, and then start building that wealth. So that's why we created Invested Agents. It was a local event called something else. COVID shut us down. So we're like, hey, what are we going to do? So we started doing online kind of a podcast, and it evolved into Invested Agents, where we can actually have a platform to engage with other folks. And if you're not an agent, really everything we talk about, anyone can do. There's extra things that agents have the ability to do. They have extra tools. That's why anyone that's investing long enough will get licensed, or their spouse or business partner to get the license. It's kind of inevitable. But yeah.
No, that's really that's cool in the sense that you're essentially laying on an additional tool for those agents. To your point, I mean, we become this is a terrible analogy, but I'll use it. Is I used to always say, and I'm not trying to offend any dentists out there because I love dentists and I need my teeth, but I used to say to people like, if you want to go have a really good job that makes money, or not, whether it's a good job or not, that's another debate. But go be a dentist. You can make a lot of money, but when you stop doing it, guess what? You stop. Like when you're on vacation, there's no money being made, unless you have a partner
With
or
one
whatever.
exception, though. So the dentist, because I'll draw this comparison: a dentist, a flower shop, boutique store owner, a auto mechanic. They can sell their business. Like
Well, that's
there's a
true.
market
Yeah.
formula, X times
Yeah.
their
Yep.
gross
You're right.
sales. A
Yep.
realtor can't do that though.
Yeah.
Like a realtor cannot go and sell their business. Now, if you built a huge mega team or a very niche brokerage like on ultra luxury and you got that, maybe, but
Brand. Right.
98% of realtors, like that's not them. And they
Yeah.
don't really even have the desire to do that. But the fundamental point there is, yeah, once you stop active activity, you lose active money.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's my main takeaway is that thinking about that in sort of with the mindset of what the old cliche, working on your business, not in your business, and so forth. So I like though the fact that you're creating sort of this avenue that empowers and then also sort of challenges agents to expand beyond that transactional piece and look at it because they've got a front row seat. I mean, they're in a great spot to really leverage that. Well, I want
Yeah,
to
they're
transition
the
a little bit.
insiders.
Yeah, exactly. I want to transition a little bit and talk. Our one of the main threads within this podcast, starts with real estate and it ends with real estate. But season, I think this is 4. We've really embedded in it, the utilization of blockchain and some of the emerging technologies within it. Wanted to get your take because from sort of my cursory review of the landscape, you're one of the thought leaders of really trying to understand and figure out how can you use this tech to enhance your service capabilities. And I applaud you for that because I've gone to a lot of conferences and a lot of people in my space and candidly in the real estate agent space, brokerage space, are like, oh, wait, let's shun that. Let's try to build a wall around us to keep that from disrupting us. And, my view is you do that at your own peril. You need to engage, you need to understand, and then you need to find areas that you can actually that work for you to use it. So just curious some of your thoughts. I know you've been working on some stuff and you've been really active in the space.
Yeah, no, I mean, from a personal level, I didn't take advantage of Web 1, which is just really the internet in itself. I was a little younger then, um, and then Web 2 came around. That's the social media aspect of the internet. I was in college, graduating, but for me, like I just didn't take advantage of it. Didn't necessarily see the
You were
business
flipping
application.
houses, man. You were making money.
Yeah, but I mean, there were certain things I probably could have done a little bit better in hindsight. But I caught wind of that later on, started implementing that into the business. So when Web 3, which really Bitcoin's been around since what, 2012. So it's been around a while. Blockchain's been around a while. It's just gotten a lot more buzz over the last 2-3 years. And once that buzz started getting to a certain level, I had the self realization that I was being naive. And I was also being the person that's, oh, this is stupid. And I was pushing back. When I had that self realization to, I don't even really know what I'm pushing back against. Let's look into it a little bit more. And I started listening to some podcasts from some highly influential people I trusted and I respected. And I realized, like, holy cow, like this blockchain technology in itself, like it literally is going to transform every aspect of our life within like 5 to 10 years. So then it was like, learn a little bit more. What's a smart contract? What's an NFT? Like, what are all these coins? All these meme coins from Dogecoin to Shibu or whatever, and then you got the Bitcoin. Like, what are the actual applications? currently, what can be an application later on. Once I actually got educated on it, it opened my eyes. And so now I'm at a point to where I'm not going to be reactionary to this. I'm going to be proactive. Now, in all actuality, the utility of cryptocurrency and NFTs right now is very limited. There are certain ways you could use cryptocurrency to buy things. There are certain ways you could use smart contracts to, um, enhance some type of offering or provide access or whatever. But it's still very limited. But the technology itself is game changing once you understand really what it is. It's going to take a little bit more time for that to develop. Right now, we're going through some pretty crazy times with Bitcoin going from
Yeah.
50,000 high down to it's below 30. Um, all of that is going to trigger the word fad, the word I told you so, just like social media, just like the internet, just like television. Like there was a point where it said like no one's going to want to sit in their house and watch TV. There was a point where it said no one wants to buy things on the internet. There was a point to when they say there's Facebook has no right to go public. They have no reason to go public because no one needs Facebook.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, multi-billion-dollar company. It's the number one visited site in the world from as far as traffic. So taking the blinders off and really understanding what blockchain is, what Bitcoin is, what cryptocurrencies are, smart contracts, NFTs, and then you can make a sound judgment. What I always tell folks is educate yourself first, and then if you're interested, play the game on a small level. Or if you don't play the game, just stay up to date on what's going on. You don't necessarily have to invest in Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, or buy an NFT. But if you're not going to do that yet, just stay educated on it, because there's going to become a time. Right before this podcast, I saw someone make a post. It was another EXP agent, and I didn't look into it, but basically she's putting her business on some platform that is going to allow her to be one of the first agents in the world to sell a house with title being put on the blockchain.
Right.
And we've already seen certain transactions sell using Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So it's going to happen. It's inevitable. It will happen. Are you going to be reactionary, or are you going to be proactive?
No, and I think you hit on a lot of good points there. And it's funny. We had just had a podcast with another gentleman, and we're talking about how, I think one of my not really concerns, but maybe quick takeaways from this last week is you hit it. You're gonna have a lot of people who hit the "I told you so" button, which reminds me, I'm a little bit older, and so in like 2001, when the .com crash started to unravel, and people were like, "See, we told you the internet is just an illusion. It has no real utility. It's a what have you, what have you," and it was one of those. It's part of a progression. It's part of what happens. And I always share with people, I said, focus on the underlying technology. A lot of this other stuff is a bit noise. I mean, and you need to dig a little deeper. And I agree with you. Consume it at what you're comfortable with and engage it. And there's some older agents or older peers in my business, and I'm very honest. I said, you could probably never worry about it again and be okay. Like I don't think that we're going to see a seismic shift in a very short period of time, but I think if you are in it if you have a long-minded professional attitude towards real estate, I would suggest that you do put in some time and you start to get yourself at least positioned so that, one of the analogies that I use is Zillow and MLS. You had this whole push and pull with the real estates on MLS, and we're not going to do this, we're not going to do this. We don't, and title, I'm really taking it back to title. We don't want to put the deeds on the chain. We want to keep it, because if we put the deeds on the chain, what if they start to transfer deeds without title insurance and blah, blah. And I'm like, we're still going to be needed. We just want to control, or we want to be involved in what the new process could look like. If we
Yeah,
just put our
that's how
heads
you
in the
evolve. I
sand.
mean, ultimately, that's the decision that goes with you either go out of business or you evolve with the market. So, Blockbuster, for example,
Yeah.
they said no to Netflix.
Yeah.
And they had to be reactionary. They later on started their own streaming service, but they're bleeding, they're hemorrhaging clients from to Netflix, and now they're trying to compete with research and development, operations, spend all this money to build this competing product, but it was too late. Like they just went out of business. So you can be reactionary, you can be proactive. Ultimately, it's yeah. If you're 5-10 years from retirement, you could probably skate on by. You'll be fine. If you got time in this business, it's I mean, ignore it at your peril. But the cool thing about folks like our age, you can like see watch what your kids are doing.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
when we were growing up, when AOL.com, like our parents thought that was kind of a joke, but we're like, this is cool. Like this is the greatest thing. And I remember thinking in my room, I don't know how old it was, 12, 13, thinking like there's gonna be a website where you buy everything from. And then later on with the eBay, like Amazon wouldn't let.
You should have gone ahead and done a patent at that very moment.
Yeah, I mean, old country boy, I didn't have that foresight, but I mean, later on, Amazon came out,
Yeah.
or eBay, and then
Yeah.
then Amazon. But we also have to remember there are a lot of other companies early on, and you
Yeah.
don't hear of them. Like no one knows about them because they were early. Now they're
Yeah.
gone. Same thing will happen here. Coinbase, they're the number one trader right now, platform that you can trade in the U.S. Are they going to survive? We have no idea. They're
Yeah.
hemorrhaging money right now. Another company may come along, just like Amazon. Amazon, they weren't the first now, but they are. They did survive, but they lost 80% of their value. But Jeff Bezos, in an interview I watched recently, he said when that happened, they went below like it was like $6 a share. And he's
Yeah.
like, but he was looking at the fundamentals of the company. The company was strong. They had growth both in customer and revenue. Everything was looking good. So that was a fundamental company that was able to weather the storm. So certain coins, certain entities and organizations, they're going to survive. A lot of them won't. And that's where the danger for an early, like, that's why I say if you're going to invest, you need to maybe understand, at least with crypto, that play with money you can afford to go to zero. Um, Invest small. If you're very risk adverse, maybe just watch it. Um, but
And the good thing is, though, to your advice, and this is what I say is just get yourself, yeah, start with $100 and just put it in and just get familiar with
yeah,
how the systems work. And then the other thing is, when you're in the real estate space and you have somebody, and right now is a perfect example of why real estate remains the most relevant asset out there. I mean, you've got all of this craziness going on in the world and you look at stocks, you look at crypto, you look at this, you look at that, and boy, there's a lot of people that feel good about. At least I own my house. I own an investment property. So when I talk to fellow real estate professionals, I was like, any way that we can bring other people into our space is a good thing. And so if tokenization is going to help us get more people into the space, we need to get on board. Let's
and that
support
other
those
that
opportunities.
100% will like
Yeah.
that has me super interested.
Yep.
So I mean, if you don't know what tokenization is, it's the and this is more for the audience. It's the ability to think of it like a timeshare where you're taking a property and you can break it up into or multiple owners have certain rights. It's more than that, but that's a good analogy. You can do that with an asset like real estate, but you can also do it with paper, like your mortgage will be tokenized. So an NFT is a token. So with some of them, whether it's an NFT, which is non-fungible, but you can also have fungible tokens. But your title policy, that will be an NFT. Your insurance policy, your warranties, like everyone's going to have a digital wallet, and they're going to have tokens that represent something in real life, whether that's
Yep.
paper or a hard asset. That's how it changes the world.
Yep.
You go to the football game and you'll get an NFT. And who would love to say that they were at one of Michael Jordan's like that final game, that final championship that they won, and they had the NFT for it. Like because we used to, I collected movie theater stubs when I was a kid.
Yep.
So I'm sure there are some Star Wars Trekkies and whatnot that have their movie theater stubs back in the 70s, those the original trilogies. So we collect things, but beyond that, there will be utility and just understanding it. And here's the cool thing, because we're so early, it doesn't take much to be a thought leader. Like 30, 40 hours of education, you know more than 98% of everyone else.
Yep.
And then just continuing to stay on top of it from there.
And that's what I say. The landscape is wide open. So if you get really interested in one aspect of it, you can continue down that path, or you can just wait and pull back. But so well, this has been super engaging, super helpful. A lot of good takeaways. Before I let you go, a couple of things. One, how can people learn more about Chris Bounds and what you're doing? What's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, investedagents.com. And that has all my socials. Or if you want to go one step above that, investedx.com, which is the hub of both invested agents and invested equity, which is the investment side of like the fund and passive investors. But if you connect with me on social, I respond to every DM. If you comment, as long as I don't think you're spam, I'm going to respond to you. So feel free to reach out anytime. Happy to connect. I love connecting with other professionals and seeing how I can add value.
Awesome, man. Well, this has been really fun, and look forward to catching up with you, seeing how everything goes with your fund. Sounds like you've got some real traction with these properties and building that out, and I know you're super excited about that. And we just want to thank you again for your time, and have an awesome rest of your day, Chris.